Hello, how's everybody doing? So we are on day 16. Wow, day 16. And now we pivot. And now we pivot to a different realm totally. We dealt with our ground floor, which we said was I'm here for Olam Haba, which took us to lessons like never blame, show respect, this is work. Then that took us to the overall idea of what our approach is through this whole, and you're starting to see it. Our approach is offense, offense, circumvent things before they happen. Don't wait to navigate when a problem comes. Handle things before the problem. An offense, a good offense, is the best defense. A good offense is the best defense. You don't need to defend when you're constantly love bombing your wife and things are great. You don't need to defend. There's no problems to deal with because you handled it. And most of the problems that you have is usually a result of you not doing something beforehand to circumvent that problem. Then we dealt with Rabbi Miller's 10 Commandments of Marriage, those unbelievable rules. And Rabbi Miller says more than that. I suggest everybody open up the tape. You could probably get it online. In fact, I know you can get it online. Rabbi Miller's 10 Commandments of Marriage. Now we pivot totally to a new system, a new form. And this is actually almost a mode of therapy. And this comes from a Dr. John Gutman, who has something he calls the Love Institute. He's actually a religious Jew. He comes when he speaks, he comes on stage with a yarmulke always. He's a very public figure. He is probably right now one of two or three foremost marriage experts. And how did he become such a marriage expert? He was a psychological analyst. He analyzed numbers based on things. And then he started to realize when he started to get into the subject of marriage, he can actually predict which couples are going to stay married and which couples are not. And to his surprise, couples that fight weren't even an indicate was meaning fighting in a couples wasn't even an indicator that they were going to get divorced, which was amazing. He had other indicators, which I kind of mentioned before: stonewalling, ignoring, things like that. But fighting wasn't. In fact, he says that there are three types of marriages. There's a volatile marriage, which is could be a very healthy marriage, which the even in the Gemara talks about it like a baby, and it gives three different examples of marriage, which we'll talk to you about a different time. But a volatile marriage where they're fighting on, and they fight hard, and yet there's a lot of there's a lot of there's a lot of positives in the marriage also. Then you have other marriages that are very passive marriage where they don't fight, but they don't really love on a very deep level. Then you have kind of the in between, which they kind of tiptoe around each other all the time, but they do have moments where they do argue, and they do have moments where they do show affection for one another. But leave that. He gives 7 rules of marriage based on what he says, based on what masters of marriage have. He said he studied people that were married for many decades. Let's call them masters of marriage. He says, and the masters of marriage all have one of these 7 things. And for the next 7 days, we're going to be concentrating on these 7 ideals that he puts forth that the masters of marriage get. And they're brilliant, they're smart, and they're very, very important for us. So what is the number one? The number one principle of marriage according to Dr. John Gutman. And the first one is know your spouse's map. He calls it a love map. I don't like to use the word love. It sounds too romantic for a, for just, I'm uncomfortable with that word. But he says you have to know your spouse's emotional map. It's an amazing thing. He says there are people that are married for years that never even speak about deep subjects, never even speak about things of what each other wants out of life, what they think about certain things, how they got along with their parents, how they get along with their brothers and sisters, what they think about their own family, meaning a husband doesn't even know what his wife thinks about his own family. Now, usually in our relationships, we kind of have that, but it goes so much deeper than that. There was a time I was sitting with Rabbi Jacobs, the Mashgiach of Lakewood, and he was married to his wife. May she live and be well. Rabbi Jacobs passed away during COVID, but I was very close with him. But his wife, Rebbitzin Jacobs. So his wife, Rebbetzin Jacobs, I was with the rabbi, and the rabbi was talking to a few boys, and the Rebbetzin walked in, and she said, I'm ready to go when you're ready to go. So the rabbi said, I'm ready. So she said, okay. So I'm waiting for you. So all of a sudden, about 30 seconds later, she came back and she said, I'm sorry, Rabbi, was I assuming that you wanted to leave? So he said, no, 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 I really want to leave. Now that story made a very big impression on me because so many times we ask things from our wife, our spouse, and we automatically assume their answer and they'll just go along with it sometimes. Yeah, what do you want to eat? You want to eat? You want to go here? Yeah, we'll go there. Okay. And then she'll say, yeah, okay, let's go there. But really in reality, we never really got to the crux of what they really want. We never really asked them. They just went along with it because they're compliant, because that's what good people are. So chances are your wife is compliant. She listens. You know, it's another amazing thing. People talk. Nobody listens. Nobody asks questions. Nobody wants to know about the other person. You come in front of a guy, you talk, you talk, you talk. Dale Carnegie writes, he says a great story. He says he one time was talking, he went to an affair somewhere, a party somewhere, and this lady sat down with him, and he's Dale Carnegie, these he's the master of friends and influencing people, and she sat down with him and she started talking about her trips to Africa and her trips to India. She was a wealthy lady, and she's chewing his ear off for an hour and a half of the party, and the whole time he's going crazy. He said, I couldn't even get a word in if I wanted to get a word in. He says, when she finished the conversation, she looked at him and she said, Mr. Carnegie, now I see why you're the master of conversations. What a great conversation we had. And he walks away thinking, we had a conversation? That wasn't a conversation. She just spoke. She was in the middle of a monologue for an hour and a half. She was giving a radio show. We weren't talking. But that's what people are. People come in front of another person, they just talk. They want to say their feelings. So therefore, we go in front of our wife, and usually we monologue, or usually our wife monologues. Usually we tell her everything that happened in the day, and she's barely listening. And then she'll start telling us all about what happened in her day, and we're barely listening. You could see how long a couple's married based on how the husband reacts. Does he know how to really time the, oh yeah, oh wow, and he's not listening to a word. He just learns how to time it perfectly. When his wife finishes him, he's like, oh, okay, great, but he's not really listening. So that's each one of us are in a monologue rather than us having a conversation. Rather than me start off with just talking, let me ask questions. Let me get to know my wife better. And there's so much more you can know because people are always evolving. Ask questions. The next time you go out with your wife, the next time you have a discussion with your wife, ask questions. Don't talk. Ask questions. Not just how was your day. When your wife asks you, start telling you how was your day, when you ask your wife how was your day today, and she says, well, in the morning, I woke up and I went to the store and they had this on sale. So instead of listening, stop her and say, so how did that make you feel when you saw it on sale? You were like excited? Like get her to talk more. Get her to show her inner feelings and her inner self. Now, anybody likes to talk about themselves. So the more you ask questions, the more you're gold with your wife. But on a deeper level, what you're doing is you're understanding her ins and outs more. And by you understanding her emotional ins and outs, you can navigate things much better. There's no assumption. How many times your wife asks you, you want to do this, you want to do this, and you just say, yeah, okay, fine, let's go. Wife asks me, you want to go take a walk? Yeah, I want to go take a walk. I don't want to take a walk. Look at me, I barely move, But I go along with it. But if there's and what does that do? That lends itself to not really having a full relationship, because a full relationship is where you're both synergizing, you're both understanding each other what they want, and you're not assuming, and you're knowing each other on a perfect level. Ask questions, discuss, talk, get to know your wife's emotional system. So how'd that make you feel? It's amazing when that happened, when you told, were you scared? Questions like that. Have a good day. Day 16 test. So we spoke about knowing and understanding the ins and outs of your wife's emotional map. knowing what makes her tick. And those constantly change because people evolve. What got her nervous today is not going to get her nervous yesterday, and it's not going to get her nervous tomorrow, and maybe didn't get her nervous yesterday. What makes her feel like she misses, a relative who was passed on may not have done that in the past. So this only can be gotten understanding the person's emotional state at every juncture by asking questions and by listening. So that is the task of the day. Very simply, tonight when you speak to your wife, and every night there should be a conversation for 10 minutes or 15 minutes about nothing, about just talking, not about the kids and not about this, about just hard subjects. You should ask questions. How was your day today? How'd that make you feel? Things like that. Questions that get into the inner workings of your wife, meaning that you're showing an interest. Nobody likes anything more than feeling that somebody else cares for them. And the way you show them that you care for them is by asking questions and showing an interest. So, probably the greatest gift you could give your wife is attention, and deep attention, and concern. So ask questions. 3 questions tonight. In general, I have the practice when I go out with my wife. I even had this when I was dating. When I go out with my wife, I have a list of questions, 5 or 6 questions that I ask, random questions about anything. And it just gets the ball rolling in conversation, but also shows that I care about her opinion. I want to hear what she has to say. And I'm concerned about her feelings. Have a great day.